Welcome to EFTM and welcome to another bag of Apple goodies, including the iPhone 14 Pro, iPhone 14 Pro Max, and the iPhone 14 itself. Let's take a look and unpack what's new, what's exciting, and just how they stack up after a few days using the iPhone 14. 4 new iPhones were announced last week in Cupertino, but just 3 go on sale this Friday. The iPhone 14, the 14 Pro, and the 14 Pro Max. The 14 Plus, which is the same size as the Pro Max, doesn't go on sale until early October. Why that is, we don't know. But frankly, if you try and buy one of these today, you're going to struggle to get one till mid-October anyway, unless you've already got your pre-order in. Now, let's talk about the iPhone 14. Now, this guy here is very similar to the iPhone 13. And often people say, oh, it's an incremental upgrade. Apple's lost their stroke of innovation and all those kinds of things. But the fact is, we've reached peak smartphone. You see it with everyone. Apart from Samsung's folding phones, there's very little innovation going on in smartphones. It's all under the hood, it's all in the camera, it's all in the detail. And that's what Apple's done with this, the iPhone 14. So what we have here is the lovely new light blue iPhone 14. Now, I'm not going to lie, I haven't turned this on. I haven't used it because I'm using the iPhone 14 Pro. I've had limited days to do this, and so it was important to check out what was vastly new. The iPhone 14 has the same processor as last year's iPhone 13 Pro. Now, that's a better processor than the standard iPhone 13, but it's still the A15 Bionic chip with a different core count to the iPhone 13 standard. 2 lenses on the back, 1 lens on the front, but the camera is where most of the improvements are made. So there's now autofocus on the front camera. There is a better quality camera on the back with this new photonic engine, which is able to deeply process photos essentially in a more advanced way, actually ahead of where it was happening before. So the processing is occurring in a faster way, in a better way, allowing them to get more detail and better low light. The action mode is something I'll demonstrate to you in a moment when we get onto the Pro, but that's also available on the iPhone 14. So in reality, what you're missing out on when you go Pro are the screen technology, the dynamic island we'll talk about, the extra lens, and the processing power. But for the people who bought an iPhone 11, an iPhone XS, an iPhone 10, an iPhone 8, this is the phone. This is your new phone. It's perfect. It is going to run all the latest software and apps. It's going to do everything you want it to do, and it's got a great camera. That's where the iPhone 14 sits. At $13.99, it is a pricey iPhone, no doubt at all. But you get what you pay for, and that is a quality phone. I like the blue finish. I think that's good. There's a light purple as well, which I think will appeal to a lot of people. But broadly, I think the iPhone 14 is a great, simple step forward in that entry-level iPhone market, because entry-level is where a lot of people live and breathe. And again, if you've been holding out with an iPhone 8 or 10, that's probably the one that's going to please you most. This also has crash detection, so if you are in an accident in your car, this phone will detect that and potentially alert emergency services and your emergency contacts. Another good reminder to set up that emergency contact list in the medical ID. Now, I don't think my cameras can do this justice, but this is the iPhone 14 Pro Max in purple. Kind of comes across as a dark blue in some of that, but there you can see a bit of a glow of the purple. It is a very subtle purple, I will not lie. In the camera bump, there's probably more purple than anywhere else. But the colors aren't what matters here. Cameras are what matters. New 48 megapixel camera here allows for a few things. Now, firstly, it allows for better quality photos. Now, if you choose the Pro RAW standard of photography, you're going to use 40 to 80 megabyte photos. These are going to be big, but they're going to be high quality, great detail. If you just go with standard photography, what happens with the 48 megapixel is you get access to a whole range of crops. So you've actually now got a 0.5, which is your ultra wide. You've got a 1, which is your standard wide. You've got a 2x, which is actually a crop of the 48 megapixel down to 12 to 2x zoom. And then you've got the 3x telephoto zoom, which is lens based. It's actually pretty smart, it's pretty great, but it does fall behind, I think, other manufacturers in terms of the amount of zoom that you're getting. We should be seeing 10 times zoom now by now on an Apple iPhone in an optical sense. These lenses are enormous. They really do sit quite large on the back of the device, larger than last year's phone. And I think for that, we should be rewarded with much greater zoom. And I think that's probably my biggest disappointment in the iPhone 14 camera is the zoom. I would like a lot more zoom, but if the quality of the zoom is improved, then we're in a good place. And from my testing, the quality of the zoom is actually improved on the iPhone 13 quite dramatically. The 3x lens, I was never a massive fan of on the 13. It's vastly improved, I think, thanks to the photonic engine and the megapixel count. I think that's what's doing it on this iPhone 14 Pro. Okay, let's talk about what's really new and what you're going to notice about on the iPhone 14, because in reality, iOS 16 has brought a bunch of new features to all iPhones from the iPhone 8 onwards. So let's just set aside all those new cool things that you'll get with lock screens and things like that and have a look at this. This is always on mode. This is a 1 Hz refresh rate display. So basically what happens in always on mode, instead of the screen being black like it is here, when I turn that off, on this iPhone 13, and you turn it on, you get full brightness and the full refresh rate. What's happening here is it dulls down to 1 minute refresh. So it's essentially refreshing the screen every minute. I'll give you a great example of that. Set a 2-minute and 27-second timer. All right, so we've got a timer started now. Let's now lock the screen. And you'll see down the bottom, it's counting, 2 minutes 17, 2 minutes 18, 2 minutes 15, there it is, it's counting down. And then it goes into always on mode. And look what happens. It just shows the 2. So it's not refreshing every second. It's not refreshing every millisecond. It's not refreshing hundreds of times a second. It's just refreshing very rarely. And then it goes down. If we were to turn the screen on, you'll see the full second count. So that's a really simple example of how the refresh rate on that always on display works. And I've got to tell you, sitting there with the always on display, it's fantastic. It's such a great thing to glance at on your phone when the phone's sitting on the desk. Now, yes, LG, Samsung, everyone but Apple has had always on displays for a long time. I mean, Samsung had an always on display with the note that you could write on and make notes on. Doesn't matter. When Apple does something, they do it their way, and I think they've done it very well because it's a full color always on display. It's not just a black screen with white writing. It takes the color that you had on the screen and it dulls it down. Now you'll notice the picture changes every time because I'm in photo shuffle mode. So let me change that. Let me change my home screen here to something a little bit simpler. Let's go for maybe not the moon because that's black and white. Where's the Earth? There it is there. So let's go for that mode there, okay? Now, when we go into always on mode, you'll notice the Earth just tilts back a bit. It's still colorful, but it's dulled, and the clock and everything still appears. And I think that's a great way to demonstrate always on display because you're still seeing your normal phone working beautifully, but it's dulled out. It's saving huge amounts of battery and you're able to glance at the time. Think about how many times you turn your phone on, just tap your phone every day just to see the time. Big advance. So always on display is fantastic. It's only available in the 14 Pro. So that's one of the features that are exclusive to the Pro models. And one of the reasons you might choose to buy the Pro model. The other reason is the screen brightness, 2000 nits peak brightness. Now, that basically means this thing is super bright and that's going to work well in outdoor areas. It's also going to work well when you're watching content, and that is over and above, I think, about a 12 or 1800 on the iPhone 13. So peak brightness, always on display, 2 great reasons to buy the iPhone 14 Pro models. But in reality, let's just set aside all of these great features. I mean, look at these 2 phones. So this is the Pro Max and this is the Pro. You've got the photonic engine. You've got autofocus on the front-facing cameras. You've got the crash detection here as well. You've got the A16 Bionic chip, which obviously is going to be far more powerful and allow for some exciting new, I guess, processing power on gaming and also things like artificial intelligence or augmented reality, things like that. And you've also got up to 1 terabyte of storage here on the Pros, only up to 512 on the standard iPhone 14 models. So in reality, I think there's 3 things that matter about the Pro, and 3 things I've loved using. So the always on display is a massive hit for me. The screen brightness, I'm not either way about. I probably wouldn't even notice if it had changed. However, the dynamic island is awesome. All right, so what we've got here, and let's go super close on this, is this little, a lot of people are calling it a pill-shaped camera array. Now, actually, when you look at it, and you can probably just see it there, it's actually two sets. I'm trying to get some light in there as well to kind of show you whether you can see it. You probably can't. No, you can't. It's one very small hole here, which is the camera. And then there's a second set of holes, or two holes, which are the true depth sensors and the like. And there's actually a gap in between them, but they're blacked out. So instead of putting the screen in between the two, they've made one big pill-shaped cutout. Now the pill-shaped cutout, again, not new. Others have done it. But it's just the way Apple has utilized the pill-shaped cutout in the design of the software that really matters to me. So let me give you some examples. Music. That's, I think, the simplest one. Let's turn that down. All right. So here we are. We are in a song. All right, very good. Happy days. Song playing. Bit of John Farnham from the anthology, the Green Anthology. Now, when we swipe away, normally it disappears, but now, up the top, we've got this awesome little indicator, no matter where we are in the phone. So if we were to open up a website, let's do that now, and we've not only got the website view, but we've now also got the dynamic island. And so that dynamic island is now showing me very, very small, the album artwork, and a little waveform of the music playing. And that's it there, look at that. It's just unbelievable. Now, if we tap on it, we get a larger drop down, a larger cutout, and to be clear, if we just get you a bit of white screen, it appears, again, it's hovering over the top of whatever you're doing on your phone. So you've got that control and you can swipe it away, so it goes back to where it was, or you can just tap on it and it brings you straight back into the full app. Now that little island appears in a whole range of places. It appears when you're setting timers, it appears when you do Face ID, the Face ID unlock comes out of there. And honestly, I hear myself saying that it's amazing because it's really just a piece of software that's overlaying black windows on top of a part of the screen that can't be utilized. I get that. I know entirely what I'm saying. But no one else has done it. Everyone else has just had this little cutout and they've gone, we're cool with that. That's totally fine. We like it. We like it the way it is. But Apple's gone, we're going to have this cutout. So let's utilize it. Let's make the cutout a part of our software. And in all honesty, they did it really, really well. Let's set a timer on this one here. So let's set a 15-minute timer. We'll start the timer. Very good. And now let's swipe up and you'll see there the timer in use. Really simple. Nothing complex. But it's a great way to utilize that space. Is it enough to make you want an iPhone 14 Pro? Probably not. And nor should it be, frankly. But it's awesome. They've done it very well. This is a genuinely incremental upgrade. It really is. If you've got an iPhone 12 Pro, I'm not rushing out to buy the 14. But let me show you one feature that only exists on the iPhone 14 models, and it's called Action Mode. Now, it happens in the camera. So you open up the camera and you go into video mode. Now, up the very, very top of the screen, you'll be familiar with the flash button, but there's now also this little button here called Action Mode. Now, what Action Mode does is it enables a hyper smooth GoPro style stabilization. And that's something GoPro's been writing home about for some time, and it essentially takes out the shake of your hand. So I wanted to put that to the test. I got my youngest son, Harry, to jump out on the grass outside. I stood on the road and I ran alongside him as we ran to the corner. I am a fat, unfit human being, and it was a tough run for 10 meters. But I did it, handheld like this, running. And we looked at the video. Action mode on, action mode off. Now, I'm going to break it to you really gently here. Action mode didn't make a big difference because the stabilization that already exists in the iPhone 14 camera, and probably in the 13 as well, if you're real about it, is excellent. Really, really good. So let me show you side by side a screen recording of me filming with the action mode outcome, and you'll see how vastly different it is because you really see the shaking of my hand here. You can see how much I'm shaking my hand and how much the stabilization has kicked in. But now if I put you side by side with, and these are two separate videos, I didn't film them at the same time, but similar run, action mode on and action mode off. I'm not sure you can tell the difference. So while action mode is amazing, I actually think the stabilization in the cameras already was outstanding. Now it's second generation stabilization, so it may well be vastly better than what existed on the 13. We'll have to wait and see what other people do to test that. But I thought it was impressive. But again, is it enough to write home about? Is it enough to spend big bucks upgrading on? I'm not so sure. The size of these camera bumps is remarkable, but if you get yourself an Apple case or one of the many cases that will come out, they'll very soon drift away into nothingness. The design is remarkably the same. This space black is gorgeous. I think that's the color to choose, but there is obviously the purple and others. I think it's a great phone. I don't think it's remarkably better than the 13 to the point where you need to be rushing out to get it. But I don't think Apple think that either. I think that this year, more than probably any of the recent years, could see the biggest upgrade, because 3 years ago, telcos were offering 36-month payment plans. And so now all those people are coming up with their 36th month and they're going, well, let's, for the 37th, let's start all over again and get ourselves a new phone. So forget thinking about this as a comparison between the 12, the 13 and the 14. This is about how far they've come from the 8, the 10, the 10S and the 11. And it's a long way. The iPhone 14 Pro is an outstanding phone. Is it the best phone on the market? Probably. Just because of the way they've integrated that hardware and software, that dynamic island. The camera features are amazing, but lacking in some ways in terms of zoom. So I think really it's still Samsung and Apple head to head, with Google trailing very beautifully close in third place, and plenty of challenges in other brands like Oppo, TCL and many, many more. It's a great time to be buying a smartphone. The iPhone 14 will sell out in big numbers because the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max go on sale this Friday, and the iPhone 14 Plus goes on sale October the 7th. Full review at EFTM.com.